Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the channel as the starting 11 prediction for tomorrow's Europa League tie against Roma at Celtic Park. We come in to this game off the back of that defeat to Hearts at the weekend. It was a blow for Wilfried Nancy to lose his first game in charge, but I have to say some of the discourse after the game, some of the fallout in recent days, I think has been appalling. I think you expect the online narrative to be reactionary when Celtic lose a game. That's always how it is. That's always what happens. But I think both in terms of what was going around online from some Celtic supporters after the game, but more so the sort of almost witch hunt in the mainstream press in the last couple of days. When we did the full time reaction on Sunday, standing outside the ground straight after the full time, we were unaware of the sort of narrative that was starting to take hold about Nancy having a tactics board at the side of the pitch, and then there was also reaction to his post-match interview where he said it's not about winning and losing, we all want to win, it's about performance. And I think some people have absolutely flown off the handle in a knee-jerk way at that as well. So I think what it highlights is the difficulty that Wilfried Nancy has in taking this job. It's not just the circumstances that he finds the team in and he finds the squad and the club in, with everything that's gone on off the pitch and what I see as a squad in dire need of repair, given multiple failed transfer windows. Also taking over in the middle of a season after the squad was low in confidence, and then an interim manager came in for a 6 week period and got some confidence back and went on a good run of results, taking over at a time where there's three huge games in the context of the season in the space of 7 days as well. All of those things were stacked against them. But I think what the last couple of days highlights is just how much the public narrative is also stacked against them. I think there's probably an element within the fan base who didn't fancy him as the manager, and so after losing a high stakes game in his first outing, there's a very knee jerk response to that, and they look for confirmation bias to almost write him off on some level. But I think the mainstream stuff in terms of what we've seen coming out in the last couple of days, I mean, I don't give the clicks that this stuff looks for, but some of the Daily Record stuff, the Sun, they're all out to get him, and it's all the usual clickbait nonsense with Ryan Stevenson criticising him for the trainers that he was wearing. There's been a load of people turning into him for the tactics board. I think it's appalling. I really think it's atrocious, and I think what we have to do as Celtic supporters is give the guy a chance. We're going to have to be patient. That's the reality of the situation. Like I say, there's a load of things stacked up against Wilfried Nancy, and he doesn't need the Celtic support to be buying into this mainstream narrative to write him off and to ridicule him really at every turn. We have watched Celtic managers in the past lose their first competitive game in charge in much easier circumstances than Wilfried Nancy had to navigate last week. Gordon Strachan lost famously in Bratislava heavily in his first game in charge of the team. Brendan Rodgers lost embarrassingly at Lincoln Red Imps in his first competitive game in charge. Ange Postecoglou lost 2-1 to Hearts at Tynecastle, as you all know, in 2021 in his first league game in charge. And they had pre-seasons, and all of those, by the way, good Celtic managers that went on to win multiple league titles were very successful at the football club. They all came fresh off a full pre-season with their squad and went on to lose their first game in charge. So I think some of the stuff in the last few days has been appalling. And now, if I just give my own thoughts, because I didn't, like I say, in the full-time reaction, I didn't get a chance to do this on the tactics board stuff, an absolute nonsense. It doesn't even merit the words to talk about it. If you think that's a negative, then you're miles off it. He's trying to communicate a message to the players, visually communicate a message, change things up. People have spent months, I know from comments on even on some of our videos, bemoaning the fact that Brendan Rodgers would never change anything in the game, and then you get a manager who comes in and is actively changing making tactical tweaks in the game, and communicating that visually and clearly to his players, and he gets ridiculed for it. It's a total nonsense. And as for the post-match quotes about being like effectively prioritising performance, I think again just taken out of all context and blown out of all proportion by some people again who maybe don't want him to succeed for whatever reason. But I think that's what most managers talk about these days. It's something that Ange Postecoglou talked about a lot when questioned about his very brave, bold, risky style of play. Ange Postecoglou used to say, I think that that's the way that's worked for me, and I think that if you compromise on that to get a win, and a win can be elusive at times in football, if you compromise on that, then that's not sustainable. I think if he wants to go and sit behind the ball, and have a low block, and that's not what he believes in, then he used to say it all the time. It's about the process. It's about playing in the way that we want it. It's about getting the level of performance and the style that we want it, and then the results follow. That is the only way to sustainably build results. Now, people have been very keen to point out that Martin O'Neill constantly said, results come first and then you worry about performance. That is physically impossible, because there is always a performance and then the outcome comes after the performance. That's the result. So whether the performance is good, bad or indifferent, it always comes before the result. People are acting as if Martin O'Neill actively wanted to play badly but just win, as if he was never interested in playing well. It's a total nonsense. That the emphasis on getting a good level of performance is the underpinning of all elite managers anywhere you look across football. And again, I think to try and ridicule him for that is just miles off it. So we're going to move on and actually talk about the game now, but I just had to get that off my chest because we haven't made any content since the full-time reaction, and none of those two matters were really out in the open at that time. So we are going to have to be patient. It's a difficult situation he's inherited. Now, by all means, debate the merits of the formation, his tactical changes, his substitutions, all of that stuff. But to just ridicule him for nonsense things like saying he wants a good performance level and for having a tactics board is crazy stuff. And I think when you see the mainstream narrative set against him so early to try and ridicule him and discredit him, I think the Celtic support have to be fully behind him, and not buy into that, and not sort of contribute to any of that sort of stuff. Now, we face Roma tomorrow. They have lost their last two games. They've had 3 defeats and 2 wins in their last 5. They're sitting 4th in Serie A. They're 15th in the Europa League table. That's 9 points they're sitting on. That's 2 points above Celtic coming into this game. Gasperini is in charge, who Celtic faced in last season's European campaign in the Champions League when he was manager of Atalanta. His team also plays a back 3. So I don't think we're getting Roma in scintillating form. They obviously played Rangers earlier in the Europa League season as well. They won comfortably at Ibrox. Don't get me wrong, they've got some brilliant players and a brilliant manager, I hasten to add. So it's going to be a really difficult test for any Celtic team. Again, under a new manager who's trying to implement a new style of play, a new formation. The players will be hurting after the defeat at the weekend, and they're taking on so much new information and trying to play in the manager's image. And again, it's going to take time. If you go back to Ange Postecoglou, which I think, again, these comparisons, in terms of the radical change that might be happening on the pitch in terms of the way a team plays, it takes time. It always takes time. And I think in a difficult game like this, it's going to be interesting to see how the players can adapt. Again, they're coming up against a team who also play a back 3. What impact will that have in the game? It's going to be intriguing to watch how it plays out. Roma have obviously got some top players, and defensively, I think the sort of individual errors, if you look back at the goal, probably both goals actually for Hearts at the weekend, it wasn't really like we were cut open from open play. I think that it was just really messy in terms of the individuals involved. I think McGregor, and I don't mean to single out Callum McGregor, there's 3 or 4 players in the box for Braga's goal standing with their hand in there instead of trying to defend it. Trusty makes a poor attempt at blocking the final shot from Braga as well, and then obviously the second one's a set piece where again we've just switched off, and the defensive setup at set pieces has left a lot to be desired. Negrin just lets McEntee get free from him, and really it's an unchallenged free header into the far corner. So we're going to have to be switched on, and we're going to have to try and eradicate those sort of individual errors, because again, against a team of this level, they will punish you for that. But it's going to be another opportunity for the players. They've had a few days now with the manager. Again, they've probably had at least the same or more time than they had last week since he arrived. So it will be helping. Again, I know it's because there's a game every 3 days. It's not hell for leather on the training pitch, but it will be time to get his ideas across, and hopefully we can start to see a progression. And don't get me wrong, I think in parts of the game on Sunday, you could see what a Wilfried Nancy team is going to look like, what it's going to try and do. I think there was a real intent to play the best forward pass available early in the game. I think McGregor had a couple of really nice diagonals that got us in. The best chance of the game comes from one of them. McGregor deep in the pitch, getting the ball on his left foot, switching it out to Tenekte, who plays in Daiz Maeda, who should score. He must do better in that situation. We had numerous good chances in that early part of the game, and then despite the fact we lost our way in the middle and didn't create much, we had really good chances towards the end of the game as well. I think we, in the early period, again, the first 20-25 minutes, we didn't really let Hearts out. Hearts didn't really offer much going forward at all. I think we pressed the ball pretty well. We worked the ball into some areas where we were, Callum mentioned this in the full-time reaction actually, there was some really good passing opportunities sort of on the edge of the box in the final third, where you're looking for nice slide rule passes through balls, and they were often overhit and they went out the pitch. We had a lot of those situations that, again, if individuals can make better choices and we have a better level of technical quality and output in the final third, where we've struggled all season, then you could have been looking at a different game. So I think there was underpinnings there that could be encouraging. Don't get me wrong, I did think we lost our way, as I say, in the second half, and you can tell there's still a lot to get to grips with for the players. But I think this binary viewpoint of ones and zeros, that we lost the game, so it means everything was absolutely terrible, and the manager's on a hiding to nothing and he's going to be out of his depth, I think is just miles off it. I think you can see, even after 2 days, what he's trying to do now. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm going to be like a broken record. We will have to be patient. It is quite a radical change, but I think you can see what he's trying to do, and hopefully domestically that can start to click sooner rather than later. This video is brought to you in partnership with FPRO, the ultimate football training app. Winter is fast approaching, and in Scotland that means long dark nights and frozen pitches, but with FPRO your child can take their game to the next level. FPRO guides you through over 110 professional exercises to help you achieve technical excellence and master the fundamentals of the game that every player needs. FPRO is used by players from the top academies across Europe, and it only takes 20 minutes a day to see real progress. You can track your performance, compete against your pals in the app to move up the leaderboard, and earn rewards as you improve as well. Whether it's inside or out in the garden, the FPRO dribbling mat and app can help you maximise your skills. So if you have a son or a daughter, a niece, a nephew that's football daft and you're looking for Christmas gift inspiration, FPRO is the one. You can get 20% off with the code Celtic20 via the link in the description of this video. Thank you. Let's get back to it. Now, I know for the starting 11 prediction I did in the build up to Sunday's game, I had the charity bet for Chaz. It didn't come up. I'm going to keep it going through until Christmas. If I get one, I will donate it, and then we'll see how it goes between now and Christmas. I think we've got at least 3 or 4 games left, so there's a few more opportunities for that, but it is difficult when you don't know the manager's patterns in terms of team selections yet, and it's even more difficult with a new formation. But we're keeping the charity bet going, and if I get one up, I will donate that money to Chaz. Now, let's have a think about the Celtic team for tomorrow. Like I say, it is very difficult to try and pinpoint exactly where the manager might want to make changes, because it is a new system. He's still learning about the players. I think you could tell that in some of the substitutions that he made. I think there was a wee bit of confusion at times, and I think 1 or 2 players maybe, he's talked a lot about tactical flexibility already, Wilfried Nancy, but I think maybe McCowan coming on, playing out of position, didn't really work for us. There was a lot of chopping and changing. Having said that, we did late in the game, in that last 10 minutes, we did have our best period of the second half, and we built up a bit of pressure and created some chances. But it's difficult to predict this team at this minute in time. But here's what I think it might look like. Kasper Schmeichel will be in goals. I think arguably he could have done better with that second Hearts goal that goes in at the back post. We're used to, I suppose, at this stage of his career, he's not the most nimble and mobile, Kasper Schmeichel. I think a header like that, coming from where it came from in the 18-yard box, you'd maybe like to see him move his feet a wee bit quicker to get over. But again, you could argue that situation, and certainly he would, as a goalkeeper, that situation should never arise, because the player should be marked and there should be a much better challenge on the header. We obviously, the weekend I gave you a sort of 4-3-3 formation and then a 3-4-3. It was obviously 3-4-3 that we went with, so this is sort of the first starting 11 prediction that will have 3-4-3, and they'll all be like this moving forward. So back three, I'm going Trusty, Scales and Tierney. Again, I'm not sure about Austin Trusty's suitability to play in that role in this team. I think Trusty's strengths are his defensive capabilities when we've played teams in Europe where he's had a lot of defending to do. He's got to win aerial battles, he's got to be physical, he's got to do out and out defending. I think that's where he's been strong. I'm not convinced about his ability on the ball, because this system under Wilfried Nancy is going to put a lot of onus on the left centre half and the right centre half to at times take the responsibility of having the ball and progress it up the pitch. And there has to be a lot of movement in there as well, but they have to be competent passers of the ball, because if they're progressing the ball over the halfway line and nobody's coming towards them, we saw this at the weekend. Hearts left Austin Trusty on the ball, but he's unsure at times. He doesn't really know whether he should progress it. He's not a competent enough passer to try and pick somebody out in between the lines. I'm not sure moving forward. I know we've got injuries in that position. Maybe Alistair Johnston coming back, but that's a few months away. He's more suited to playing in that position. Carter Vickers is obviously out for the season, which is another blow for us, but I think Trusty, in terms of the onus put on him with the ball in this system, isn't cut out to play in that position. And that kind of goes for Scales as well. I know Scales is playing in that central position, but a lot of really poor passes for Liam Scales. And again, I know that the team got nervy at points at the weekend, but I'm just not sure about the suitability of those two to have so much of the ball and to be such a key part of building the play and being incisive with their passing and progressing the ball up the pitch. If they're not going to be pressed, then they have to be the player that drags somebody out of position and commits a midfielder, commits a wide player that tries to move the defensive structure of the opposition. I'm not convinced. I actually think Tierney, I know he moved up the pitch, maybe more into that wing back role as the game went on. I thought he was probably one of the better performers at the weekend, I have to say that. He obviously gets the goal, but he puts a brilliant cross in for Engels on 85 minutes, and Engels should score. He straight the goalkeeper, Scholoff saves it, but I think if we get a goal on 85 minutes, there's a real chance we can go and get an equaliser. We end up getting the goal at 92 and a half minutes. By the time we've kicked off and we've put the ball forward, it was full time. So it was a big chance, but I think Tierney, in terms of his output later in the game, did improve. So I would certainly give him that credit, but I expect him, I think, tomorrow to play, or at least start the game in that left centre half role. I think Sirachi's one that would help us on the left hand side, but he's not available at the minute. We'll see where his fitness is at. Again, I'm doing this starting 11 prediction before I have seen the manager's press conference. It hasn't been done yet as I'm recording this, so I'm not sure on the fitness of certain players. Moving forward, moving up the pitch, I'm going Engels on that right hand side. Now Yang played there the weekend. I'm going to put Yang on the left hand side because I think Tenekte had a poor outing on the left hand side. Again, I think Tenekte finds himself in really good areas a lot of the time. His footwork and his dribbling ability has looked good, but the output it's getting worse, the output actually, and I think he's really letting us down in those key areas, and that has been a hallmark of this season so far for Celtic. The output in the final third has been way below the level. So I'm going for Yang on the left hand side this time. I think when we think about the 4-3-3 situation, Yang was more suited to playing on the left. I think that's why he had a few good performances under Martin O'Neill there before he left. I think it likes the Feyenoord, maybe Hibs as well. I think he's more suited to coming in off the left-hand side. I know there's a defensive responsibility in this position. And again, against a team like Roma, that is going to be there. I just think Engels on the other side, I thought about putting Donovan in. Might the manager put Colby Donovan in tomorrow? He could on the right-hand side. Again, I'm just not sure about the patterns in terms of the midfield players who play and where they're going to fit in this system. I'm not entirely sure yet. So I'm not sure Donovan, if he was going to be involved tomorrow, I'm not sure why he wouldn't have been involved at the weekend. He is obviously technically a right back and a right wing back, so he's not traditionally a midfielder like Engels, but I think Engels has got enough running ability to get up and down the pitch. And actually, if he finds himself late on in the game, we put in a lot of crosses on Sunday. Too many crosses for Wilfried Nancy's liking, because he said I would actually like us to pass the ball, to find the pass instead of just lumping across into the box. But when we're in those areas, Engels on that right hand side, if he's in those sort of deep crossing positions, he can sometimes find a lovely pass. That's really the strength of Arne Engels' game. It is dead ball striking and his crossing. When he's got time to get his head up and whip it in for that right channel, that can be a strength of his. So I'm just going him on the right hand side. Let us know what you think. It's very difficult to judge who'll play in these wing back positions right now. McGregor and Hatate in midfield. I understand Hatate probably played as one of the more advanced midfield players. If you're thinking about that box set up in midfield, he probably played ahead of McGregor. I'm not sure that suited him. Again, it's too early really to judge it after one game. I think he'd been playing well under Martin O'Neill there. It's going to be interesting to see how he settles in this system. And I think McGregor as well. Can he be a wee bit more aggressive? Not tomorrow against a team of Roma's calibre, but again, I think there's a lot of fluidity when this Wilfried Nancy system gets up and running and the players really understand it to a better level than they do or they did on Sunday and they do right now. I think there's going to be a lot of fluidity. I think it's relational is what they always say, and I think there's a real onus on the players to go and create overloads and veer from their position and not be so rigid. So it's going to be interesting to see how different players adapt to that, as I said at the weekend. And then completing that front three, I'm going Nygren on the right hand side, who I didn't think was very good at the weekend at all. I think again he got in some good areas with space and time to pick out a pass, and again his end product really disappointed. I just think he is the most suited right now because you're not looking for an out-and-out right winger. The width is coming from those wing back areas. He's more of a sort of inverted 10 and he completes that sort of box in midfield. I think Nygren's suited to that. He does need to do better, don't get me wrong, but I think his profile is one that's suited to playing that. And I went for a bit of a surprise on the other side because I can't quite fathom what one of the traditional midfield players would play on the left-hand side of this box in midfield in the advanced position. It was not Bernardo because I don't think he's suited to play in an advanced position. Could it be McCowan? Arguably, but I think he's more suited coming in off the right, and I feel like Nygren will play there. Aside from that, again, I've just said Tenekte. I don't think he's suited to be in, if he's going to be more of a midfield player in that box than a winger, or like he was in the wing-back position at the weekend. I'm just not sure he's got that ability. And unbelievably, I think the player who's most suited in there is Balikwisha. Now, I almost don't expect the manager to start Balikwisha tomorrow, but what I will say is I'm not in the position where I have a strong conviction on who he'll play, and I think he will be learning about the players. There could be maybe an argument for Iheanacho to be involved. I just think why I've not put him in is twofold. He's not played at all recently, didn't even come off the bench at the weekend. And I think if he was going to play in one of these wider positions, then it might be from the right-hand side. And again, I just think Nygren's better suited to doing that. I think Iheanacho maybe played off the front at different times in his career. Whether he'll be an option off the bench for us, I'm sure he'll be on the bench, but it'd be nice to see him back in the team because I think what the output in the attacking area has been so disappointing. And listen, I'm not wholly convinced about Iheanacho, but I think when we're so lacking in quality, he is an option, and I would like to see him be involved in the game at some stage. And then Dyson through the middle, who should have had probably 2 goals at the weekend if he had a bit more composure and he could finish better. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Dyson in January. you would expect that he might leave after how the summer went. There's no doubt for Celtic, whether we can do it or not, with the mess of the recruitment operation in recent years, whether we can go and replace, well, we're replacing Kyogo, but replace Dyson Maeda and get a striker in of real quality who can fit in this system, and can score his goals, who is ruthless. I mean, Hearts, I know they're playing away from home at the weekend. They're sort of sitting in and they're in their shape and they're trying to restrict what we're doing and then hit us in the counter. But they were ruthless with their chances. They didn't really have too many chances in the game. I think the only other save I remember Schmeichel having to make was Shankland. It maybe came right before the second goal. It might even have been led to the corner for Hearts' second goal. But Shankland for a wide area, producing a save for Schmeichel. But I think it was our first shot on target. Braga puts him 1-0 up. And we've got this volume of chances and openings and getting in good areas and just not having the ability and the quality to be ruthless with them and make them pay. So that's a big problem for us. And I think that the personnel in the forward areas is a big issue. But I think that might be something along the lines of what the team will look like tomorrow. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Who would you play in these key areas in this 3-4-3 system? Again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they've adapted since the weekend, what they've learned since the weekend, because like I say, I know it's a bad result. We don't want to lose games, certainly not at home, certainly not in big domestic matches where your rivals near the top of the league. But I think there was elements of the game that you can see what he's trying to do and that can be developed and can get better. So against a good team, we're going to have to be aware defensively, but I think it's a good opportunity to see again how it's progressed and see if there's any improvement been made in this 3 or 4 days from what we watched at the weekend. We know the cup final's on the horizon on Sunday, which is obviously a big game for us, and I think winning the cup for Wilfried Nancy would really give them some time and calm everybody down. I know the games keep coming thick and fast through Christmas and into New Year, but I think to win the trophy would just relax everybody and create a calmer environment for him to do his work and for the players to adapt to this new system. But like I said at the top of the video, we are going to have to be patient, and I think that is what we should be. There's no way you should be judging a football manager who's come into a terrible situation after one game. So we need to get behind them. We need to be patient, and let's see how we get on tomorrow against a really good European side. I'll see you tomorrow with the full-time reaction. Thank you.